Welcome back here on the Senior Network. We were discussing caregivers and actually how that plays in with the families in hospice. So tell us a little bit, Nancy, what you see.
Sure. Well, in the line of professional caregivers, we have a lot of caregivers who will be on cases for a long time, meaning they're with the same client for a very long time. And then as that client then declines and then ultimately passes, we get a lot of caregivers who will come in the office and just say, I don't really know how to deal with this. Not that they don't know how to deal cognitively, because this is their profession and they're professionals, but you have to remember, a lot of these people spend more time with the client than they do with their own family, as do we. I mean, we spend more time sometimes with our coworkers than we do with our own families. It's the same thing with them. They are in an intimate setting with one person for a very long time, and sometimes it's years, and then all of a sudden there's this huge void in their life. And occasionally we have set up either a one-on-one, or we have set up like a bereavement class for people. So if it was like a 24-hour case and we have 3 or 4 caregivers on that case and they're all sort of feeling that same loss, we'll ask a bereavement counselor to come in and talk with them. Is that something that you're open to in professional situations as well?
Yes, it is. And we do that for various companies and churches in the community. I'll be glad to speak with them. And we try to do it for our staff as well, because you know, we're in the same situation. And I think it's so important. I think the main thing is to be heard. You know, that everyone wants to be listened to and that they want to share about that person that they were working with, but also that you really need to have a healthy life outside. Your personal life and your home life really needs to be healthy, so you don't take all this home and it doesn't come in and affect your life. But we're glad to meet with anybody to provide that support.
Caregiving is one of those, you know, amazing professions where we know we're never going to be millionaires, so if you don't have it in your heart to do this type of work, you quickly know, okay, this isn't for me, and I'll exit myself out of this industry. But the ones that stay with us obviously know that, you know, they're invested 100%, so that when that person does pass, it's hugely impactful for them. And sometimes they're not ready to take on another case and another person. But then all of a sudden they will call and say, okay, I've got to give my energy and my love, and, you know, I've got to give to someone else. Who do you have that will match my skill set, who is really in need? So I think that you know, that speaks to the kind of people that we're working with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you touched on something I think is a great point for the folks that don't know. You said 24-hour case. Explain what that is.
Sure. We do have a number of clients who will absolutely need 24-hour care. There could be a number of reasons for that. Just as an example, we do have a lot of folks who have a diagnosis of dementia, mainly Alzheimer's, and therefore if they're ambulatory and they can't be alone, meaning they will exit the house and elope, they do need someone with them 24 hours a day to make sure that they don't do that. So what we will usually do in that case is we have 2 options. They can either have caregivers that are you know, there in the house, awake and alert 24 hours a day, which would usually mean 2 12-hour shifts that just rotate. You know,
same people.
Yes, same people. Consistency. Or we can do a live-in situation, depending upon, you know, if the person is not ambulatory and maybe does or does not have Alzheimer's, then we can do a live-in situation, which means that they are awake most of the time, but they are alert enough in the evening to be able to say, oh, I hear my client needs some help. I'm going to get up and escort them to the restroom and make sure they're clean, dry, and attacked, but go back to bed. So we've got a number of options that we can present to families that are, you know, meet the needs of the client, but are cost effective too.
And so what you're really saying too is, if someone elects, you know, there's great assisted living facilities out there, but if they want to stay home, you're basically bringing assisted living to their home.
Sure. Well, there's something for everyone. So I would say that if people are skeptical because they say, well, I think we need 24-hour care, certainly ask the question, because we can make something work for everyone.
Sure.
You know, there's always ways to do that. Sure.
And I know, you know, obviously we have nursing staff that goes in and actually takes care of all the medication administration and oversees all that.
Certainly.
And then when we get hospice involved, which happens, unfortunately, sometimes, that we have to go through that process, and we kind of have to marry the two sides together, meaning the nurses with hospice, the nurses with home care. And I know we work very well with you, by the way, so thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think the biggest success, the biggest success is when we do have a lot of partnerships coming in. Sometimes we'll have palliative care also, which I know is another thing that maybe we want to talk about in addition to home health and home care. So then when we have all of those things running contiguously, this particular client could have a whole lot of eyes on them.
Sure.
Just making sure and seeing things that others might not see, and then being able to alert the families to, hey, why don't we try this to make sure this person's living their best life. So, so that might be interesting too.
And you mentioned, we were talking about communication between, the caregivers trying to communicate with, the kids and the parents and so forth. But a lot of that too is the families will turn to you for communication from us.
Of course.
Correct?
Yeah. So as a point of contact, I mean, the office, and I'm sure is in the same case here, the caregivers are fantastic in providing the care. But also the office is a point of contact where they really want to call in and say, hey, can I get a full report on what's going on? We have a tool, though, where the families can actually log into our what's called our Clear Care app, and they have something called the Family Room. And what they can do is, it's really interesting, they can go in, see the schedule, see a picture of every caregiver that's on the schedule, so they know, oh yeah, I know that young lady, I saw her when I visited last, I remember her. And then they can see what activities have been done on each shift. So if they said, oh, I think mom is scheduled for a shower on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, let's see if this past Monday she had it. Oh yes, it's checked off. Or if they say, oh, it wasn't checked off on Monday, let me call the office and find out why that was. And then they can find out, oh, right, she had that doctor's appointment on Monday. Okay, great, I see now it was done on Tuesday instead. So it's a lot of information to access. Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's it for time again. Barbara, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Nancy, thank you for joining us. Please take a moment, if you will, email us any comments, questions you may have. And again, thank you for joining us here on the Senior Network, where senior care experts come together. We'll see you the next time.